Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Brian Pullman, Vice President at KellyConnect. Brian, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Doing well. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Yeah, well, it's great to have you join us today, and I'm really excited to talk about kind of all things contact center and agent experience. But before we kind of delve into those topics, maybe the best place to start this conversation is by asking you maybe to tell us a little bit about Kelly Connect and ask kind of about your role there too.
Sure, you bet. So I've been involved in contact centers since way back 1990, mainly in roles and companies that are outsourced providers. Most recently, and for the past 11 years, I've been with Kelly Connect. And Kelly Connect is a full outsourced provider, but it's somewhat unique in the industry in that our parent company is Kelly Services, well known in the industry as a staffing company, kind of pioneered the staffing industry. So that's where we have our roots. Is we initially staffed contact centers, and after doing that for so long, we got to be as good or better than the companies that we were servicing. So we learned about how to manage in a contact center environment. So we kind of evolved into offering piecemeal solutions and or full outsource solutions. So that's where we find ourselves today is engaging with prospects who may or may not understand that we have the ability to help them beyond just staffing. So we have what we call a managed service approach. And so we may start with just staffing and then evolve into maybe a staffing plus type of environment where we introduce performance management, directly manage the people, offer some workforce management services. We have a great training team, and so we can offer learning management and ultimately even interaction management by introducing technologies to help route calls better and whatnot. And before you know it, we could be your full outsourced provider. So that's what we do today. One other thing is what's highly unique is that we've been primarily 100% virtual or remote work since dating back in the 2009 or so. So pre-pandemic, we were kind of work from home before work from home was cool, if you will.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, yeah, as you said, it's been a big shift. But you also said you've been working in the industry since the '90s, and I'm sure maybe there's shifts in certain areas of contact centers that you'd like to see in a bit more since then. But given what you said, it certainly sounds as if Kelly Connect is a unique position within this marketplace. I think an interesting question to ask you would be, given that place in the marketplace. Wow. So what are you seeing in terms of trends in kind of global workforces and the general talent outlook?
Yeah, we're all we're all on the heels of post-COVID world, right? Interestingly enough, Kelly Services just did a global work report, just published last month, and wherein they interviewed 1,500 executives and 4,200 employees across 11 countries and 9 industries. So got kind of the feel of the market. Some of the takeaways from that, maybe not some surprising, but more just validating. On the executive hand, executives are finding it really hard to find and retain employees. So that's maybe constantly, kind of a constant. What surprised me about the outcome of the executive surveys is that they found that current employees are very undercommitted even in their current jobs. In fact, 45% of the people self-admit that they're giving the bare minimum. So that's a little bit scary and daunting for companies to consider. Is okay, we might have found people and they're in the right seats, but how do we get them engaged because they're undercommitted? On the employee side, we found that that talent feels unloved, overworked, and overlooked. So it seems like there's a disconnect there that we could build a bridge. And secondarily, a real desire out there for work-life balance and for career opportunities, and career pathing. So Those are kind of so. Bottom line, it's I take away from that the talent right now in the industry, the talent is in the driver's seat. You know,
Yeah.
and so we need to react appropriately and create an environment that people want to be part of.
Mm. Yeah, I think that is quite mind-boggling. 45% admitting to doing the bare minimum. That's crazy. But it's not a surprise. I think contact centers have always felt like a stepping stone for somebody. Maybe once they leave school, maybe they finish university and they're just looking for an interim job or something like that. But then your point at the end there that if we can offer those career development opportunities, maybe there is the customer service industry can seem like more of a career instead of a just a place to stay for maybe a year or two.
Sure.
But you've spelt out some very, I think you've given us a very good sense of the current state of the contact center market there. How is KellyConnect, and how do you advise contact centers maybe to adapt and address the realities that you've just set out?
Yeah, you bet. That's my daily opportunity or daily challenge. So we definitely have some things in place. As mentioned earlier, Kelly Connect is primarily 100% remote, and we do that not even in a hub and spoke fashion, but fully remote. We can hire anybody from anywhere. So that in and itself is maybe an advantage when it comes to being able to find and offer people who are looking for a work-life balance. Remote work is conducive to that sort of thing. Now, therein lies some challenges as well. As being remote, we have to be very intentional about how we engage and how we make people feel loved and involved. And so there's the balance there. So in some respects, we are actually finding that we're better at connecting with people because we have to be so intentional. And so we really encourage the frequent communication between the manager and employees. Um, which I guess the number one thing I think that we're doing, and I would recommend everyone understand, is that the relationship with the frontline manager is where it's at, basically. Uh, we encourage people to come up on camera. And as much as we expect our frontline managers to manage the product and the service and hold people accountable, our main focus is to get the relationship to the point where there's a real personal connection. Um, it's often said that people they don't necessarily leave bad companies, they leave bad managers. We really take that to heart and emphasize the importance of that relationship. Um, One thing we have at Kelly Connect is a quarterly leadership award, um, and it's where people nominate their leadership and they're recognized not so much on their outcome of the service, but more of the difference that they make in and the impact they have on other people's lives. Um, those are usually quite very emotional meetings and the hardest part is to narrow down. We get so many nominations, we have to narrow it down and only recognize a few. But those sorts of programs, and that program in particular, breathes life into the relationships and encourages frontline leadership connections is
Mm.
top of the list.
Yeah.
Um, and along those same lines, at a broader view, we have a specific role in our contact center of an engagement coordinator, whose full job is to make sure we're inserting a lot of fun along the way, non-work related type of activities and contests and affinity groups and that sort of thing. I don't think it can be understated how important that is in developing a culture. Again, I don't want to diminish servicing our clients or meeting our goals and our expectations, but if we can be successful at creating an environment where people want to be and people want to stay, that goes a long way in retention.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I cut you off there, Brent.
well, that's all right. I have a lot of ideas around it.
Yeah.
Just two or three more points along the, how what we're doing to make sure we're engaging our employees. Um, like I said, that survey indicated that people are interested in a career path. So one thing we're doing is day one, we outline what the career path looks like on our specific programs. We try to illustrate it with the mountain climber and basically say, okay, here you are at base camp, and here's where you can go. here's the single path, but then it forks, and then there's lots of opportunities for you to plateau, diverge, peak. So whether that's growing within the program in operations as a leader, or being a quality coach or a trainer or a recruiter, we try to outline for them, this is a place where you can develop yourself and your career along the way. To your point, a lot of people view it as a stop off, but I'm a prime example. I started front lines, and here I am today, many years later, and so I've taken that to heart. But outside of a formal career path, we also offer a platform where employees can pick and choose and better themselves by signing up for classes and honing their skills, whatever they're interested in, either on their own time, or we try to do a good job of building time in for coaching and that sort of thing. But we try to keep career path a conversation on the monthly basis with the frontline leadership.
Yeah, sorry, I keep coming in about to ask you questions, but I think
that's fine. Maybe just two more things. From a business perspective, it's aside from money, a lot of people want flexibility, and so when it comes to flexible scheduling, we feel like that's really important to offer up options. Now, our programs are somewhat complex, where we're not at the point where we can offer like a gig economy type of staffing model where people just come in and pick and choose their schedules. But we do offer a lot of tools to be flexible. So trades and giveaways, split shifts, micro shifts, which again, in a remote environment is something that we can do a little more effectively, just periods throughout the day, lots of starts and stops. A fair attendance policy, all those sorts of things go a long way. Now we have to balance that with servicing the client's needs, but with a big enough program and flexible options, I think we're seeing some stickiness there. The last thing I do want to touch on, sorry, I'm just rambling.
No, it's good.
Last thing is Kelly Services came out with an initiative where we're recognizing that talent has changed, or that where you find and how you find talent has really changed. Again, COVID brought a lot of this out, but in seeking talent, we've found that there's a lot of people out there who are looking to work, but maybe haven't been given the chance, given some traditional barriers of entry, be it criminal background or something on their record. So this initiative is called Kelly 33, and the 33 comes from, surprisingly, 33% of the population has some sort of record that might prevent them from being employed. And so we have to recognize that there's a lot of nonviolent crime that could be something that people have taken care of in the past. People are just looking for a chance or a second chance to prove themselves. So we're really engaging with that demographic to find talent, and typically those people are grateful and have a higher retention rate as well. So,
yeah. Again, I think that's a really great point in terms of, you mentioned a criminal record, but maybe you can also hire some people with, because of your extensive background in remote working, you may have hired some disabled people who can't do particular manual jobs, but are really great agents. So I love that point. And I also loved kind of the career developments that you're mapping out, the flexible working, the offering the micro shifts to make use of that remote operation that you have, all the way through to your awards program too, where you're refocusing agents kind of on the purpose that they serve, and that is a huge engagement tool as well. So lots of really great stuff there, Brian. I mean, we speak about technology quite a lot in Tech Today, so it's great to hear kind of those great people initiatives. I know that you're also quite big on the tech, as you said. You're the Staffing Plus company in the contact center. How do you, and we're hearing a lot about AI right now, especially within the tech sector. How do you see that having an impact maybe on the workplace and some of the challenges maybe that you set out earlier?
Sure, fair question and very timely. It's getting a lot of attention in the news, right? So I'm far from an AI expert, but I do recognize that it's evolving quickly and it's here to stay. So there's no avoiding it. So you just need to kind of know where and when to jump on that train and embrace the change. In fact, new technology innovations is nothing new, especially in the contact center. And there's always a lot of trepidation as to what that means to jobs and what that means to human interaction and whatnot. Now more than ever is probably a little bit more valid, but it's interesting. If I go to conferences and in the contact center industry, a lot of people throw the word AI out there. What they typically mean though is just automation. So I don't think, sometimes it gets conflated with just automation. And automation's been in the contact center for a long time, chatbots and IVRs and VRUs and whatnot. This is different. And as much as I think companies need to strategize on how to deploy the technology for customer interactions, I think perhaps the bigger opportunity or concern would be um, how do you protect your company from a security and identity theft situation of making sure you're validating that you're actually talking to who you think you are, that the customer is who they think they are. That's equally in my mind the challenge. But in terms of AI servicing the customer, there's absolutely advantages for interaction management that can be handled, repetitious stuff. But I don't discount the need for human interaction. Maybe jobs might be replaced, but there'll be new jobs to take its place with the high touch need out there for customer experience. We want to make sure that experience is a positive one, and not everyone just wants to talk to the robots. They want a connection, and there's a certain amount of human empathy that is yet to be replaced, and that remains true. I heard just the other week of an example of a company who deployed an AI technology, replaced their frontline agents. Now, um, this company or this program was one that was fielding calls for eating disorders. So people were calling in, uh, looking for some empathy, some advice, some on eating disorders. Well, the AI uh, started giving out diet advice and advising of diets. So talk about backfire or unintended consequences there. I think that's just one example of where you got to be really careful as to what you choose to outsource or what you choose to deploy AI and whatnot to. So anyway.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. I mean, I spoke to a vendor recently who's told me, oh, a company asked us, can we put Chat GPT on the phone? And they were
Yeah.
just like, no, 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 you've got to make
Not
sure
yet.
those guardrails almost are in place. But I think it's great. And as you say, how many times over the past few years have we heard, oh, chatbots are going to take over, yet the number of jobs in customer service are only increasing. And even when AI does evolve, as you say, it might just change those roles, and maybe they'll become higher paid roles, and that career map that you spoke about earlier will come in more and more useful. Yeah, it's a fascinating area, but maybe if we were to kind of bring this all back to maybe one single issue or one area of focus which you think can drive improvements to a culture of a contact center, the culture that you've kind of promoted through all of your initiatives that you described earlier, what do you think contact centers should really be focusing on right now?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll bring it back because I'm a big believer that the biggest point of impact, positive or negative, is with your frontline leadership. So developing, having a program where you identify, develop, and support the frontline leadership to be effective in driving the appropriate level of relationship and competency and ability to make a difference. That's primarily where I think the focus should be because one person can affect the 12, 15, 18 people on their team, again, either positively or negatively. So that's where the rubber hits the road in my mind, in my experience throughout the years. That's a vital role.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brian, it's been great to speak to you through all of this. I've learned so much. As you say, you have such a unique position in the contact center market, from kind of the management, but also you're in the contact centers too. So it's great to hear the perspective almost from every angle. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you very much for
Thank
joining me
you. I
today.
appreciate the time. It's been great.
Yeah, great conversation. And also thank you to everybody for watching. Bye for now.